Who put the symbols on the Great Seal of America and the back of the $1 bill, and why are they there? Conspiracy theorists are obsessed with the idea that these images have special significance for Freemasons. Even Hollywood has cashed in. The film National Treasure, starring Nicolas Cage, tells the story of a hunt for long-lost treasure hidden by the Masons.
These films are enormously important because it's introducing Americans for the first time the fact that our founding fathers were involved in some things that historically have not been really discussed.
And that's one of the things that intrigued people about National Treasure, I think. It suddenly made them aware of things that they'd been looking at, you know, all their lives. The triangle, the all-seeing eye that's on the pyramid in the back of the dollar, all those things had Masonic beginnings.
Conspiracy theorists have found support for this idea in the writings of the philosopher Manly P. Hall.
Manly P. Hall, who is one of the great Masonic writers of all time, wrote a book called The Secret Destiny of America, and he said it was concealed inside the symbols of the dollar bill. So now we've got to go back to the back of our dollar bill and then find out what those symbols mean. And it's very rare that people have done that. I would say 99% of the American people have simply no idea what those two circles mean.
The circles represent the two sides of the original Great Seal designed by the Founding Fathers. At that time, so-called pendant seals were still widely in use for official purposes. A pendant seal is a wax disc that is attached to a document by a ribbon or cord and usually has a different image impressed on each side. But then wafer seals were introduced. A wafer seal is an adhesive paper disc that has the obverse or front face embossed on it. Only the obverse of the Great Seal displaying the eagle was ever used.
To use two paper seals, obverse and reverse, would take over 6 inches of space on a treaty or document.
But some theorists question whether or not this is the real reason for the failure to use the reverse side of the seal.
When you look at the Great Seal of the United States, on the reverse of the seal, there's a very distinctive emblem, an uncompleted pyramid with the all-seeing eye of Providence at the top. The all-seeing eye is a symbol that is indeed used by the Freemasons.
It has been suggested that the pyramid was put forward by an artist called Francis Hopkinson, who had helped to design the American flag. He was the advisor to the second committee that was charged with creating the Great Seal, and he was also believed to be a Freemason.
Francis Hopkinson served as the designer of the Connecticut $50 note, and in that design he placed an uncompleted pyramid within a circle on the note. Having used that design successfully in Connecticut, he suggested it again for the United States.
But why put a pyramid on an emblem of the United States? If Hopkinson was a Freemason, then perhaps it would make sense. Even today, central to Masonic rituals are mythical stories that link the fraternity to the original secret societies of stonemasons who built the tombs and temples of the ancient world.
To Hopkinson, the pyramid would have represented a temple, a house of initiation, ancient wisdom.
The Masons referred to the pyramid as a house for their God to live in. It was sealed up, waiting for the New World Order when a God would enter that building and keep it as a house.
Freemasons generally refer to God as the great architect of the universe.
They saw this great architect, if you like, as being weights and measure and distance and geometry and everything that we see around us, and the perfection of nature and harmony and balance, rather than the traditional Judeo-Christian way of thinking. It's not so much anti-Christian as just different.
But opponents of this view think the Freemasons are immersed in the rituals of an ancient religion that is very definitely pre-Christian and anti-Christian.
They don't believe in an act of creation. And a man who does believe in a creation believes in a, quote, monstrous absurdity, unquote. The pyramid is where they initiate people into this ancient mystery religion of a universe without a creator God.
The fact that the pyramid on the Great Seal is unfinished is also significant.
The meaning is that when the capstone of the Great Pyramid is finally lifted into place. That's when America will truly become the nation that it is supposed to be.
The emblem of the pyramid is only the beginning of the case presented by conspiracy theorists to see hidden Masonic codes and messages in the iconography of the dollar bill. They claim that the eye at the top of the pyramid is also a Masonic image derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Something the ancient Egyptians called the Wadjet eye. And the Wadjet eye, the eye of Horus, as it's known as well, seems to represent eternal life. It seems to represent life itself and resurrection.
And it's the all-seeing eye of their God that they believe will indeed bring us Ordo ab Chao. That is their slogan, order out of chaos. That eye above the pyramid is not on the pyramid, which means their work is unfinished, and that the universe will be given order once their God assumes his rightful place in that pyramid.
The eye is a recurring Masonic image that is found frequently in their artwork after 1730. For some, the idea that the Founding Fathers arrived at the same image at the same time seems too much of a coincidence to be credible.
Some of these conspiracy theorists and what they believe is a system of secret societies all linked together, and there is some kind of malign, malicious intent here.
As further proof of this veneration of secret societies, America's first president and distinguished Freemason, George Washington, wore a Masonic apron with what appears to be an embroidered pyramid emblazoned on it. And the layout of the new capital city that the Founding Fathers went on to build was apparently based on the architectural philosophy of ancient Egypt.
Most of the buildings in Washington, D.C. were created and founded by Freemasons. That was because building was their strength. They knew how to align buildings to certain patterns in the heavens. You could channel spiritual energies if your physical buildings were lined up with certain stars.
But the hidden meaning of the dollar bill goes far beyond the curious depiction of the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. Even the most important symbols of America itself are open to a disturbing interpretation. The eagle is regarded as the primary symbol of the American Republic. It is said to represent freedom and strength, and is the most familiar image of the Great Seal as seen on the dollar bill. Some assert that the original intention was to depict the far more sinister phoenix, with its connections once again with ancient Egypt.
Out of the waters for chaos, the phoenix arises and the land of Egypt is born. I think the use of the phoenix in some of the early designs for this absolutely represent the idea of the rebirth. What we have here is a nation being born out of rebellion, an incredibly formative time.
But the phoenix was rejected in favor of the American bald eagle.
There was a great debate amongst our founding fathers as to which bird we were going to name as our national bird, but it was always in my mind going to be the American eagle. These are from Masonic writers. In mysticism, the eagle is a symbol of initiation. The eagle was sacred to the sun. The eagle was also represented the great Egyptian sun god Amun-Ra.
So it's proposed that the eagle is not in fact American, but instead representative of the Egyptian sun god.
So they knew that there was a connection between the sun god and the eagle, and that they would use that symbol as a symbol of the initiation into the secrets of the Masonic Lodge and also of the ancient mystery religion.
It is said the stars above the eagle's head go some way to proving that the Masons embedded their messages in the design of the banknote.
Above the eagle's head is a cluster of stars, 13 five-pointed stars, and when you draw lines between them, you'll draw a six-pointed star.
If the hexagonal star is lifted out and placed over the image of the pyramid, its points indicate specific letters in the Latin inscription surrounding it, which are thought to be an anagram.
Inside the American dictionary is the word anagram, which is the intentional scrambling of the letters of a word to conceal the real word. So if you re-scramble, you get Masons. This is how we know that the Masons originated the drawings for the Great Seal of the United States.
This search for concealed meanings in the iconography is not confined to the imagery alone. It is claimed that the number 13, the most ominous number in Western tradition, is hidden throughout the symbols on the $1 bill.
The Masons in 1960 issued an article inside the New Age magazine in which they identify the number 13 and the numbers of different symbols connecting itself to 13 as being Masonic.
They point out the repetition of the symbolic number 13. There are 13 leaves on the olive branch in the eagle's right claw, 13 arrows in the left claw, 13 stars above the eagle's head, and 13 bars and stripes on the shield.
To all secret societies, the number 13 is enormously important symbolically. The number 13 symbolizes rebirth, regeneration, and when you're birthing something, when you're bringing something into formation, it's never easy. So the number 13 can symbolize not just rebirth and regeneration, but death. Death of the old and the birth of the new.
So there's an intentional concealing of the number 13 as being a Masonic number on the back of our dollar bill.
13 is regarded as an unlucky number in many cultures, but according to the conspiracy theorists, in this instance, it has even more sinister implications.
The number 13 represents the number of Satan, the devil. And I think that's why the Masons revere the number 13. And that opens up a whole can of worms.
They are convinced there are other numbers embedded in the design of the Great Seal that have special significance in Freemasonry.
On the eagle side of the Great Seal of the United States, if you count the feathers, you'll notice that there are 32 feathers on the bird's left wing and 33 on his right wing.
This is understood to refer to the 33 degrees of Masonry introduced by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, America's most prominent Masonic order, whose national HQ is in Washington.
The 33rd Degree Council that meets in Washington, D.C., claims in their own literature to be the mother jurisdiction of the world, the mother council of the world. Manly P. Hall called them the most powerful organization in the land, that they ordain kings and shape the destinies of worlds. That's called power.
It's suggested that there is one final piece of information on the dollar bill that proves a Masonic plot. Above the eye, at the apex of the pyramid, there is the Latin inscription Annuit Coeptis, which is loosely translated as, Providence has favored our undertakings. But the Masonic conspiracy theorists claim that when it is combined with the lower inscription, a dark intention is unveiled.
America's secret destiny is involved in the Latin phrases Annuit Septis Novus Ordo Seclorum, announcing the birth of the New World Order, and that's what their goal is. The New World Order will be worldwide when it's instituted in the near future.
A new world order that abolishes the partnership of government and church as we know it. This is in stark contrast to the inscription above the number 1 on the dollar bill, In God We Trust.
It's going to be a new civilization. We're not going to live the way we're living now.
It is predicted that this new world order will be a global phenomenon, superseding all national boundaries and ignoring the ownership of property. All traditional religions will be replaced by a new belief system dictated by the Masonic orders.
The theory goes that these groups of people are intent on, in effect, ruling the world, and that this is inherent in the Founding Fathers and what they do with the Great Seal. And the symbols upon the Great Seal are intended to show us this, to show the way. It's an enlightenment, but only again for those who have eyes to see.
The evidence for hidden and possibly sinister meanings in the symbolism of the dollar bill appears to be mounting. How can historians, and especially Masonic historians, possibly explain all this evidence away? Conspiracy theorists maintain it is a covert declaration of intent from the heart of Freemasonry.
And they don't want you to know what those symbols are. They're not going to make it public because it's a conspiracy. The goal of the Masons is to lead the world into the New World Order. The American people, in fact, the people of the world, will never be given a chance to vote on this or to decide. We are going to get the New World Order without vote, without decision by us. And so they've got to keep it secret.
They believe the Freemasons among the Founding Fathers were deliberately concealing a message within the Great Seal, and it was one that was observed and understood by Wallace and Roosevelt. But Freemasons deny any malicious intent.
For whatever reason they may have thought it as an appropriate symbol of God, that's not a bad idea to remind the citizens that God oversees everything they do when they pull out the dollar bill.
Certainly, while all historians agree that the Freemasons did play a central role in the birth of the United States of America and have continued to hold positions of power ever since, 14 known Masonic presidents having served, most find no evidence of a plot to bring about world domination.
The anti-Masonic ideas that come about, especially from the 1770s onwards, are put about by fundamental Christians, by people who believe that these people were intrinsically anti-Christian, when actually most of them were very good Christians indeed, and would have thought of nothing more disturbing than actually being called, heretics or blasphemers. And I think that a lot of this has got to do with that fear of the unknown, if you like.
And the images on the back of the dollar bill are there because the Founding Fathers successfully managed to create a potent and lasting symbol that represented the United States to the rest of the world.
The design of the Great Seal has stood the test of time because it was a good piece of design. It worked. If it wasn't, they would have changed it, and they haven't. It personified what America was in the middle of the 18th century, and it has personified what America is today. So it works. It's iconic. You've got the dollar bill, and you've got Camel cigarettes, and you've got Coca-Cola, and you've got America.
There seems little doubt that the imagery of the dollar bill holds significant clues about the way America's political leaders viewed the fledgling republic and its future in the world. And the vision embodied in that imagery has been inspirational to many of its citizens. But whether this was ever part of some broader Masonic conspiracy remains, for the time being, not proven.